sense of investing.
Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. We've got the full meal deal and the behind the scenes. Young studs in Armstrong Sims and Hayden Bumpus and Jack McKenzie. Paul Catalina, David Smoak. Craig Smoak as well. We're now joined by Baylor's Director of Athletics, Mack Rhoades. Oh, by the way, here's a note. Jovan Overshawn is going to join us. Overshawn's going to join us tomorrow at 4:30 to take questions and discuss the upcoming game, Baylor at home against West Virginia. How are you doing? Good?
I'm doing well. How are all you doing?
We're doing really well. What's it like to have home game, off week, and home game staring at you?
Yeah, that's a pretty good stretch in the month of October. So I like it. This is probably I don't recall an open date this late in the season, at least in a while. It doesn't seem like that. Last year was completely off kilter because of COVID, but this is a late open date for us. At least it feels that way. Excited about playing Saturday at home at 11 a.m. and then follow that up with BYU at 2:30 and homecoming. So great 2 weeks for football.
Two questions. Do you prefer a late bye week, or do you like the early one since it's off of maybe a little bit closer to camp, which is really hard on a lot of players, so they can get refreshed for a stretch run? And since BYU is coming to Baylor first in the Big 12, are you in charge of the official welcome basket?
First question, I'm not a football coach, so Dave's opinion matters a lot more than mine. But, for me, and as I think about it, from a head coaching perspective, I think if I had to ideally choose, it would be within the first 2 weeks of October. Maybe that second week of October would be ideal. When we think about almost splitting it in half, when you take into account fall camp. So that's the way I look at it. And then, we'll do a great job of welcoming BYU. Both the president and obviously athletic director will be here, and looking forward to that game. But prior to that, we've got a big game against West Virginia, and we need to be locked in and ready for that one.
Mack, before we talk about West Virginia in particular, I mean, obviously the team took its first lump of 2021 on Saturday night, a tough loss in Stillwater. I will say that I really enjoyed hearing Dave Aranda talk about the game itself right afterwards, but also on Monday. I mean, there's been no lack of accountability for just the overall performance, and it seems like everybody's back to work and realizing where the missteps were made. What were your thoughts in watching that unfold and on Saturday night, and now the team needing to bounce back?
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, and I always I always look forward to the conversation that I have with Dave following a game, whether it's immediately following that Saturday or Sunday after he's had an opportunity to watch film. What just a side note, what I think is really cool is that usually Dave's thoughts and the way he saw a game live in person on Saturday night, it's not far off from what he says and what he saw on film following the next day. He is really, really good at seeing the game unfold right before him live, and certainly picks up a ton. But I think I kind of felt like a lost opportunity. Not taking anything away from Oklahoma State. That's a really good football team, and they were really physical. I felt like we could have played better on both sides and had some missed opportunities. And quite frankly, they gave us a chance to stay in it because of the turnovers. And But I also think it's a game that we can grow from and will grow from. And there was a lot of ownership. There were a lot of thumbs pointing back at one another. I saw it with coaches saying this is on me, and I saw it with players. What I didn't see was any finger pointing. Nobody finger pointing at anyone, blaming it on anyone. And I think if as long as that's happening, and he's a very detailed person, and that's we're probably cut from similar cloth that way, and I really appreciate that. And he has expectations in terms of those detail, and he's holding people accountable to it. And so I'm grateful for that, and I think we're going to be better for it.
Mack Rhoades, Director of Athletics at Baylor, with us on Sick 'Em 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Mack, last week I talked to you. We're going to have Jovan on tomorrow, answering a lot of different questions. And I know that you were kind of maybe not quite sure some of the feedback. And we're going to have her on to answer every question people want, from the berm to whatever else. What was it like that when you got off the show with your staff?
I think just had a conversation with them, and probably trying to just gain a better, deeper understanding. And I'm probably I'm an athletic director that is probably more engaged into the details and the weeds than maybe some. But because of conference realignment, all of that, probably had been less engaged than normal. And so just again trying to gain a better understanding on some of the suggestions, some of the complaints. So that was the conversation. I appreciate you dropping off the folder of all of the feedback, and Lauren has my administrative assistant has taken that and has compiled that, and so we're taking a look at it. And one of the things that I appreciate about Jovan is she wants to be on the radio with you and address anything that needs to be addressed, and including misconceptions, etc., and areas that of growth for us. So I know this. I'll be listening in tomorrow.
Mack, I know one thing about you that
she'll handle it too. By the way, yeah. she will absolutely be just fine, as you know.
And Mack, I know one thing about you and the way that you run things and like to handle things is the answer of "that's just the way it's always been" or "that's the way it has to be" is not really going to get that far, is it?
Yeah, that's probably the worst answer that you can give me. And in fact, when I first started here in August of 2016, the very first all staff meeting, I told people, if I ask you why we do something a certain way, the worst answer you can give me, it's because that's the way we've always done it. That's not the right answer. You need to tell me exactly why we do it that way. And then my next question, after you're done explaining to me why we do it that way, then I'm going to ask you if that's the best way. And depending upon your answer, if you tell me you don't know, then I'm going to tell you better go find out quickly whether or not it's the best way. And if it's not the best way, then we better start doing it the best way immediately. And so, yeah, that's not a suitable answer.
Mack, we've talked to you quite a bit over the last few months about the transfer portal and just all the different things and changes going on. And college football. The D1 Council did approve the waiver today to allow teams to add up to 7 players to replace players who do transfer. What are your thoughts on that approval and that change to how rosters are constructed?
Well, full transparency, I'm on the football oversight committee, the NCAA football oversight committee, and I'm on the subcommittee that actually brought forth that piece of legislation. So I think it's really great. I obviously support it, and again, it's a 1-year waiver. I think it struck a pretty good balance. There are rosters throughout the country, especially at the group of 5, that are down below the 85, that they're, right in the mid 70s, and the transfer portal has really impacted them. And so, that number of 7, where did we land? Why did we land at 7? There really wasn't anything magical. The Football Coaches Association certainly had input into it. And, I think coaches talked about, 5 to 10. And so, it's where we landed, somewhere in the middle. I like the fact that you can't replace, anyone that's not leaving the institution academically eligible. I like the 1-for-1. Again, beyond the initial counters, the 25 limit. I think it continues to put an emphasis on recruiting, high school student athletes. So, again, I think we landed in a good place, and we'll look at data after a year and see, if any tweaks, does it become permanent, et cetera. So, good solution, for now.
We had someone on who does stats and graphics and images on Friday, and he sent us an amazing presentation about where the Big 12 is, where everybody else is, where conferences are, who makes sense and who doesn't, and why somebody that maybe doesn't make sense makes sense when it comes to expansion in the Big 12. You guys were kind of sneaky with this, weren't you? Bob Bowlesby and the Big 12 and Oliver Luck, or you and some others that were put on that expansion committee. You had a lot of this at your fingertips pretty quickly. Did that allow you to pretty much react when some thought you guys were dead in the water?
Yeah, I mean, look, I thought it was really important, and I think I can speak on behalf of everyone else in the league. But I personally was vocal about, I don't want to sit through an entire football season and every Big 12 game, the commentators are all they're doing is talking about, 2 schools leaving and the uncertainty in the Big 12, and the Big 12's defeated. And we need to change that narrative. Now, you can't just change it to change it. You got to be thoughtful and make sure that if you're making change, it's really good change. And so, we began to immediately vet and look at, potential members. Certainly waited for teams to reach out, or schools to reach out to us. But at the same time, we were looking and vetting data, et cetera. And so, we were able to get to a place pretty quickly. And again, time will tell. Time is the greatest judge, but I think we really landed in the very best place we could land. And you think about a Cincinnati that goes into Notre Dame and wins at Notre Dame. There's not many that do that, period. And And so again, I remain and will continue to remain just excited about the future that this conference has.
Can you see a chapter 2 coming sooner rather than later?
And I'm assuming when you talk about chapter 2, you're talking about, a phase 2 of maybe adding.
Yeah. Going from 12 to 16. And we've reported the teams. I'm not expecting you to be able to do that, obviously, but can you see that as something that's more likely or not?
Yeah, one, I would say, you never say never. I think, a league of 14, and we'll be a league of 14 for at least a couple of years. I would guess. I think a league of 14 is hard when it comes to scheduling. That doesn't mean that you automatically go from 12 to 16, but it's a good question, and I'm not dodging it. I think the best way for me to answer is I'm not in a place where we're going to add just to add. I mean, it's really got to be compelling, I believe. If you're going to add, whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4, you're going to have to show me that it brings X amount of value that each of those add-ons pay for themselves, and maybe there's even a plus side to it. I think you leave that possibility open. You certainly don't close that door. There's some other things that are happening in our world, right? Whether it's the Big Ten, part of the Big Ten TV contract up, prior to 24-25, the Pac-12 TV contract up prior to 24-25. And so you look at all of that. Again, open-minded to it, but it's got to be compelling.
Thank you, Mack. Craig, anything else? Paul, anything else for Mack Rhoades? Mack, thank you. You and I will sit in the berm, and we'll have a tailgate party right there in the middle of that and just invite whoever we want for a home game here pretty soon.
Well, I'll be happy to do that, and I'll look forward to the segment that you all have with Jovan, and she'll be terrific.
She will answer. She's ready to answer any questions and get straight into it. Thank you, Mack. Mack Rhoades, Baylor's Director of Athletics, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. I thought what he said there, like maybe 2 or 3 answers ago, about how the Big 12, when I asked him about all the images and graphics and data and all that, and it was a very small group that saw this almost immediately and said, we did not want to spend the entire football season hearing about how we were losing the 2 logos. Didn't say logos, I did. And how they wanted to be more about what they're gaining rather than spending the next 3 to 4 months talking about what they're losing. And they did it fast. Emphatically doesn't mean that the Texas game with Oklahoma Saturday won't be all about maybe the SEC rather than the Big 12. But I thought that was pretty impressive the way he said that they needed to remove emphatically, and they did. And he's speaking, again, not for Mack Rhoades, but speaking for everybody else.